our discussion here. I have with me for a discussion Mr. Mohammed Salah, member of the Egyptian Social Democratic Party. Thank you very much for being with us. And I start with the Daesh, or the developments in Syria and Iraq, this area. Now, so far, 25 to 30,000 troops have been able to control swaths of areas in Syria and Iraq, and despite 40 countries international called the International Coalition holding airstrikes, they're not able to control the situation. So how do you describe the situation there?
Well, it's my pleasure to be with you today. Let's go back to the development of Daesh itself, or ISIS, as they call it in English, the Islamic State in Iraq and
we do not
even
recognize them as any part of Islam.
Daesh also stands for this, by the way, Dawlat al-Islam in Iraq wa Sham. So it's the same. It seems that the West and the United States never learn of their mistakes. They did the same with Al-Qaeda before, when they breed that monster in the backyard to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan. And then when the monster grew up and developed fangs and claws, the first one to be bitten was the US itself. The same, they created what's called Daesh, or ISIS, as part of the opposition to Syrian regime, Hafez al-Assad regime, Bashar al-Assad regime, and they gave these militias very advanced weapons. They gave them maybe not in a direct way, but through their allies in the region, like Turkey and other allies, and they provided them with all what they need to have such power to control, as you said, vast areas in Iraq and Syria. Putting in mind that Iraq and Syria now does not have real military forces that can oppose these.
No, so far there are no Iraqi forces.
Yeah,
we're speaking about a very fragile.
Yes, and the Syrian army is occupied by in other fronts with the fight with the
another front already who had swear oath to the same group.
Part of, though now there is there is some dispute between Daesh and Nusra and Al-Qaeda, and every now and then you find another militia formed and started to announce for itself. At the end of the day, what we have is 25, 30, sometimes they said 50,000 in the highest estimations. These are very well trained. They have good ammunition and weapons. There is no real opposition. In a way, some especially on the Iraqi side, they are supported by some of the locals, the Peshmerga, the Sunni and
fighters.
No, Naqshbandi, the Naqshbandi army, which partly related to the old Saddam Hussein, officials who escaped after the invasion of the United States to Iraq. So you have local support and no opposition. Putting in mind that the airstrikes that has been done up till this very moment is totally ineffective. They kill one or two in every strike, and it's always known in any war that what settles things is the troops on the ground, not from air. Air can give good cover, but they cannot liberate a land. And that was very obvious during the liberation of Kuwait after invasion. So that's the issue. Now the only opposition, the only real opposition for Daesh on the ground is the Kurds. At Kobani or Ain al-Arab, they have very brave opposition and fighters. They are fighting up till the last bullet, and we heard about that women who suicide, yes, rather than being kidnapped or captured by Daesh or ISIS troops.
She went and blew up herself.
Yes,
that's
and still up till now. There is support from some countries in the region. Everybody knows that. The Vice President, Joe Biden, said that Turkey was supporting Daesh, and then he, withdrew after, or who took back his words after the, Turkish
troops stood still doing nothing, watching the whole Kurdish area being devastated. Yes, indeed. If I may go back to what you said here, that the United States initiated this Daesh. What was the purpose of initiating such a group in this area? I mean here, what is the motive for a big power like the United States already existing in the region, because it is still in Iraq, not far away. And indeed, there were many chaotic scenes in the area we're speaking here. Of course, the Arab world is just coming from the so-called Arab Spring, if it was spring at all. But anyway, what I am asking here is, why Daesh? Why now? And what is the purpose?
Well, it's not necessarily that they created Daesh in a direct way. They supported, militias based on ethnic and religious, background. They did that, as we said before, with Al-Qaeda, and they were doing the same now. They had this for, they thought that might be the way to take down the Assad regime in Syria. In a way, they were thinking of the same in Egypt when they were supporting the brotherhoods and the extremists in Sinai at the beginning, when they thought that they can do the same here. But thanks God, we have this conspiracy aborted in the beginning. This is the way they do it, divide and conquer. They put ethnic groups or religious groups against others, Sunnis versus Shia, Kurds versus Arabs, and so forth. They just go on like this.
Yes, they do that. Yeah. Conquer or divide to conquer, as you said. But why? I mean here, they still exist in Iraq. If we're speaking about oil, then they are still in control of oil because they have their allies. If we spoke about Nouri al-Maliki, even though that they showed that they are not very much pleased with how he controls the area, and they are allied with the Kurdish, and it is very obvious from the very beginning of the U.S. invasion in Iraq.
Yeah, but this is
Daesh, this new, very violent, very brutal, very extreme terrorist group. Why? What is the purpose for putting such a group at this particular stage? We're speaking here that the whole area is in chaos. Look at what is going on in Libya. Look at what's going on in Yemen. Look at what is going on in Somalia. Look at what, I mean here, the whole area is in real chaos. What is a real purpose for putting such a group right now that would control parts of this area from Iraq and Syria at this stage?
Well, exactly what you said, to keep it unstable like this. The scenario is matching in all areas you mentioned, in Yemen, you have a militia based on religious background. In Somalia, it was also like this. The Shabab movement is a militia based on background, religious background. In the Islamists, and if we can say that they are Islamists or the extremists in Libya, the same. So how to maintain such unstable situation is by creating these kind of groups to start this fight, and you will find that all are, Syria was one of the opponents to Israel. Syrian army was one of the two remaining armies in the region who can stand for Israel. Now you find this army totally inefficient. It's almost destroyed. Iraq already destroyed. So if they feel like they withdrew from Iraq last year, or a year or 2 years ago, the Americans withdrew from Iraq and left Iraq for their allies, Nouri al-Maliki and his government, but they found that he cannot control. So we create another monster to start this situation, to have another an alibi that we will go back to this region. But now it's not only Iraq and Syria and maybe parts of the Gulf. All the time, the U.S. politics usually starts on based on the conflict. Start a conflict here and start an opponent, and then interfere as the policeman of the world, or the cop who will just separate between the two opponents, and being the wise guy and the symbol of liberty and all these morals.
Yes, we all know about the values and
yeah. So that's what they do.
Principles of the United States, of course. But right here. There are three sides of in the whole situation. There is this international coalition that has been by the United States as the savior of the world, as usual. There is Turkey, right, and there is Iran. And of course, we know that Turkey has been playing a big, huge role in. If you can say, supporting the group, and that was not stated by Egypt. Of course, it was even stated by the United States. Iran, which has lots of influence in both Iraq and Syria. So how do you view first the position of Turkey?
Well, I can understand the Turkish situation. It's the Turkish government is part of the International Muslim Brotherhood organization, and that was part of the whole plan. The whole plan was put brotherhood in all the Arab Spring countries, and then start the so-called Khilafah and redivide and redraw the map of this area according to ethnic and religious and tribal background.
Ethnicity and
yes.
religiously.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was
tribal.
the whole idea. And that's exactly what devastated the United States about what we had in Egypt in the 30th of June. Because you feel like the whole plan goes down because of what happened. If the Egyptian people and the Egyptian army did not stand for this conspiracy, and if we did not by our instinct and by our patriotic instinct, let's say, realized that we were in the middle of a big conspiracy, the whole area would have been now in a deep problem. Of course, the United States, when it started ISIS or Daesh, they thought that they can control. As I said, they formed a troop that can be their, a naughty boy in the region. But this naughty boy, at the end of the day, turned to his master and became, out of control. I'm not saying that all those who are, belonging to Daesh are realizing what's going on, or they are not. They are hypnotized. They feel like they are doing something, and that's exactly what they do. It's an intelligence work. You have that instinct of the religious instinct inside you. You're more religious. You feel like, as a reflex of what's happening. You see Muslims everywhere are slaughtered in Burma and whatever, and so you feed all these inside those young people, and then give them a weapon, and they will kill themselves. They will use it for what will serve your interests.
At the end, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you are speaking about a very important issue, which is recruiting the youths who are carrying out or who are being used as the tools. But before we go on, we discuss this part, because this also is very important, since we've been seeing the recruiting process taking place not just in the region but also in the Western.
Yeah,
and
even
that's,
front, yeah.
Let me here ask again, or reiterate or repeat my question about Turkey, particularly that Turkey has been called upon by the United States, the Western, even the Kurds, before the Turkish have, or Turkey has already promised Kurdistan that they will never let Daesh near or come near the borders or their towns, particularly the Kobani town. And they said it clearly that they are going to assist and support and stand by the Kurds in this fight. First, they did not really, or they were really unwilling to join such a coalition because of the so-called hostages who were caught by Daesh, but then those
miraculously were released.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
These hostages Daesh had their conscience just suddenly awake, and they released the Turkish
exactly.
refugees, Turkish hostages only.
Yes.
Without and we don't know what was the price for this. Obviously,
nothing
there is
was
no price.
said about
that.
Nothing.
They are
right. And this is why I'm repeating my question about Turkey and Turkey's position, not just in this fight, but Turkish role in the whole chaos that is going on in the whole area. And I'm not speaking about Turkey only. I'm speaking about Turkey and another Arab
Qatar.
brother who is really assisting Turkey in this role.
As I said, it's part of the international Muslim Brotherhood plan of mastering the universe. As you know, they are in the last. Al-Banna put many steps. The last one, or the last step, is to be masters of the universe. So they reached power in Turkey and in Qatar. Tamim is very well known that he had many relations, especially when he was studying in the UK with MB leaders there. And Erdogan is simply implementing the plan on the ground.
No, Erdogan is a leader in the international organization.
Definitely, yes. And he is now he's implementing this plan. Now he will. Or they think that they might be able to redivide the Arab countries, small areas that cannot depend on themselves. They cannot form a real country. They will depend on the Khalifa in Istanbul for his, as it was before, for his support and for his, everything, money-wise, in all aspects of life. Because if you saw the proposed, I cannot say countries, but the proposed states, or it's even not even does not reach the perspectives of a state. It's areas. Each area does not have the tools to sustain as an independent area. So they have to have a master that who will provide them with what they need. And this master is the Khalifa in Istanbul. That's the Khilafah dream that that Erdogan is living for, and of course the jewel of this crown was Egypt. If they took Egypt and they could do that, they were planning to establish a state in Sinai for the Daesh and the Islamists. And when this followed, the guys who were preparing themselves to be the rulers of this part of Egypt now are searching for another state to declare, which already happened. So Turkey and Qatar, they are implementing what's was written in Hassan al-Banna 83 years ago. Another issue is why you were asking also about what's happening.
I was asking
Iranian,
also about, yes.
yeah, the Iranian role. Of course, Iran would never dream of what's happening. That was in its wildest dreams. That would be the situation now. Now Iran is appearing as the only force in the region, especially the Gulf. They manipulate the region as much the way they want. They have the Houthis downstairs in Yemen now occupying Sana'a. And actually they are taking off the whole Yemen right now. They have Hezbollah in Lebanon as the major force there. Everywhere.
They're supporting the Syrian regime in Syria, so they can even have a kind of alliance.
A footstep inside.
Yes, a footstep,
footstep
indeed. Of course, they have their relations with Nouri and Maliki and
Shia of Iraq.
And the Shiite in Iraq. So the whole issue is very much complicated, and here I have to raise a question mark about the role played by this so-called international coalition. What is this international coalition doing? What is the role it is playing? What is the target? What is the strategy? What do they want to achieve?
If you want to know the answer, look back to what happened in New York during the Earth Summit, the 69th summit of the General Assembly in New York. President Sisi went there as a leader of what they were calling an inqilab, or he's ousted the legally elected president. And he was the bad guy of the world, as the U.S. and the Western were their media were
portraying
him. And a matter of fact, for me, I was very afraid when he declared that he's going. I was afraid that they might do something for him. It was very brave of him to go. When he went there...
You mean here the United Nations General Assembly meeting?
Yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, I was very afraid that the West or whoever might... anything can happen to him. But when he went there and you see how they received him and how he was, let's say he was the superstar of this summit. President Obama, who was... day and night declaring his opposition to Egyptian rulership, he just came and he submitted for, to meet him. All the Western leaders went there to meet him. The speech that he gave in the United Nations and how powerful was that speech, that's exactly the solution. They realized that this region, without the Egyptian role and the Egyptian leadership, will be totally out of control. They came back to their minds. They found that what they were planning for was totally inachievable. And that's exactly what they are now doing. The international alliance will never do anything without the interference or the participation of Egypt.
Exactly. And from your point of view, how should Egypt interfere in all chaos they created here?
Well, to me, what's how the Egyptian government and the Egyptian president dealing with the situation now, to me, is ideal. I'm not saying that because you are in the official TV. I have some, objections about few things, but especially in this, I find that the way they are dealing with is ideal. It's the time that they should make them realize how important is our role. We should have all it has to be a win-win situation. Okay, we will participate, but after, first of all, we have already the international recognition, wide recognition from all the nations participating there, except for that mad guy in Turkey. It doesn't matter with us at all. The other thing is, military aid from the U.S., our planes or helicopters, Apache, they were held there. Now we will have very soon, in next February, we will have an international conference for Egyptian development and economy. Yes. So we should have all the winnings that we can get, and then once Egypt declared that it will participate, you have to know that the solution is already there, and they know that.
Yes, that brings me to another side before I turn to the tomorrow big international conference held here in Egypt for the reconstruction of Gaza. Despite everything, Egypt has always carried on with its mission towards the Palestinian cause. But before we go to this area, let me first have a quick outlook to how you perceived the visit by the Libyan Prime Minister to Egypt and his call for a kind of coordination and support from Egypt. What role can Egypt play right now in Libya, particularly that we cannot separate what is going on in Libya from what is going on in Syria and Iraq?
Libya and Sudan are the backyard of Egypt, and they are the natural extension of Egypt. You cannot just close your eyes and imagine that there's nothing happening there. The Prime Minister of Libya coming to Egypt, that's a very natural thing. It's another recognition of the Egyptian role. They know that they cannot defeat all those gangs and militias in Libya without the interference of the Egyptian army, or at least the Egyptian aid in a way or another. Egypt already gave Libya some intelligence informations about camps there for those terrorists, and I think that this is also the beginning of the solution of the Libyan catastrophe. Don't forget that Field Marshal Sisi, at that time when he was the Minister of Defense, just before leaving the army to run for presidency, he formed what they call the quick interference units, which are very, very, very highly trained units, very well equipped. They are trained for such interference, the hit and run. And that's exactly the way to deal with those. They are it's like a gang, and it's war of the gangs.
Mercenaries.
Yes, so you have to, the way they are not armies to fight against army. They need forces like this kind of force to deal with.
Right. Tomorrow, there is this huge conference that is expected to host delegations from more than 30 countries. 30 countries will be here in Egypt. Egypt, in coordination with Norway, will be hosting this important conference. This conference is slated for the reconstruction process of Gaza. How important is that, and how do you view Egypt holding this conference at its territory? Your comment.
Well, it's our destiny. We are the big sister or the big brother or whatever you can say, and we cannot just give up supporting our brothers, even if those brothers did not realize how important is our role. During the attacks of Israel over Gaza, even people in Gaza, especially those committed to Hamas, they were, putting all the blame on the Egyptians, and they are closing the borders. And you see how Turkey and Qatar have that firm position, which was only through microphones.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but
when they went to reality and they went to France and they saw how Qatar and Turkey already called for the disarmament of Hamas, that is not the issue right now. What is your expectation from such an important conference Egypt is holding tomorrow?
Well, part of it that they will gather the needed fund for reconstruction of Gaza. Part of it is the recognition of Palestine, whether in Gaza or the West Bank, and the return of the Egyptian role in Palestine again, and the recognition of Gaza that they cannot survive without the Egyptian participation. Also, one important issue is that the United States now forcing Israel to take part in the reconstruction, which is kind of declaration of that they have that they are responsible for what happened. Another thing is when all these countries who will participate in this conference, when they come to Egypt, that's an international recognition of our role. Gaza will be reconstructed, inshallah. We hope that this time Hamas will understand the lesson, which I don't think so. And I know that after a while they will go back to what they used to. Matter of fact, I have many concerns about the agreement between Hamas and Fatah, that Hamas now is participating in power with Fatah, and I think once they can took power again in Gaza, they will do the same. Now, you know, all the tunnels, or most of the tunnels has been destroyed, so they don't have a way to, you know, smuggle these goods that they were smuggling all the time. So the only port for them is to go through Egypt in a legal way. I hope that this situation would not unfold again. Yes, but I'm not very sure that this will be the case. You know, going back to Hamas, you know, history, you cannot rely on them in establishing peace. Predict their upcoming move? They are predictable. I think they are predictable. Well, they have to rethink once and twice, particularly after what we will be seeing tomorrow. Tomorrow is an important day. Tomorrow is a real recognition for Egypt's efforts and continued efforts, not just for the Palestinian cause, but for its efforts in the whole region. In the whole region, and you can go far and say in the whole world, especially with the new Suez Canal. Now you control the international trading now. Indeed, indeed. Mr. Mohammed Salah, member of the Egyptian Social Democratic Party, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Next Saturday will be another contentious Arab affairs. Many thanks for watching.
waste your time.